Welcome to my daily review. Today is Wednesday, August 20th. You're looking at a daily chart of the Nasdaq, which has now corrected more than 4% from that, peak of 21,000, was it 805 on 803 on August 13th to the low today, peak to trough 20,905. That is 4.1% correction thus far. The Nasdaq today sliced its 21 EMA and closed just a tick below it, 0.3%. But you got to respect the selling here. Sure, it could rally back through. It could also pull back to the 50. So right now, I'm a little more cautious. Just, point out that July 31st, it sold off on that Thursday. Then Friday came in and sold off 2.2% and closed, 0.5% below the 21. So, over the weekend, I was saying, this is likely. My expectation would be that it would actually pull back to the 50 for once since it started this trend, this uptrend, but it didn't. It was an expectation breaker and just kept ripping, ripping, ripping. And then we have now, from what August 1st did I say up to the high on August 13th. Now we have another, mini correction and it's closed below the 21. My expectation would be that it would trade lower, but we'll have to wait and see. The difference, on that on the first was that, it closed, near the lows of the session. You could see there. And then today it closed near the highs of the session. So is that the low? Is today the low? 20,905. It made a strong rally up, from that area. And I'm going to show you a lot of the leading stocks that sold off and made lows today and then put in a pretty decent day. So, you know, this is a healthy rotation. It's not uncommon to have a pullback, especially after a big move. The famous bank robber Willie Sutton was asked, "Why do you rob banks?" And he says, "Because that's where the money is." Well, it's the same thing with, your leading stocks, Palantir. Why are they taking profits here? Well, because that's where the profits are. Robinhood, why are they taking profits here? Well, because that's where the profits are. This thing was up like 280%. And so a little bit of a give back is expected. They get too big for there's a nice rally there. They get too big for their portfolios and they have to sell some, not that they want to, but they have to sell some and rebalance and buy some other defensive names or material names or industrials or some other sector just to balance out their portfolios. So it's just to me, this is kind of a mechanical thing. It's healthy. I mean, it sucks if you're in ALAB or Reddit and you're up here at 200 and today it pulled back to 161. That's a pretty sharp sell-off. Anyway, I'm going to get to those in a minute. I just wanted to point out, the index has made that low today. I don't know if that's going to be the low. What I would expect from the index and those stocks is to retest that low, maybe. I don't know. It's August, right? It's seasonality is pretty weak time of the year. But this market's been super strong. So my expectation would be that it would retest that low, but it's been so strong, it would not surprise me if it rallied back above the 21. But I try to keep it simple. I'm cautious below the 21 and I'm more aggressive above it. So I'm just going to keep it simple that way at mcstockcharts.com. All right, a couple things. I guess since I'm showing you these indexes, which I don't really, leading stocks will tell you more than the index. Yeah, the Dow was up slightly today while, the Nasdaq was suffering all the pain and suffering. The S&P was down, SPY was down, a 0.25%, big deal. And then the IWM, a little more than that. But so the Nasdaq is the index. It's taking, most of the selling down, 142 points, 0.67, 2/3%, close at 21,172. The volume has been super light, but it's price that pays, right? This is the index with all the growth. This has been outperforming, so it stands to reason when you get a correction, this is going to correct greater than the other indexes. Yeah, I think that's common sense. All right. I'm going to get to, I did show you, okay, it's 2.5% above the 50. 0.3% below the 21. And that I show this every day at MC Stock Charts, and we know at some point, even here during this rally, it pulls back to the 50, right? It hasn't pulled back to the 50 yet during this whole rally since April, right? And we're in the dog days of August, so pull back to the 50 is not the end of the world here. But I will point out, made that low and rallied hard off it. And at the end of this video, I'm going to show you a bunch of stocks that I think have potential. All right. Last night, Toll Brothers reported earnings. We're just going to go through some earnings. I'm going to go through some strong stocks. I'm going to go through some of our leading stocks, and it'll be a short video today. Toll Brothers reported, down 0.5%. I think it was more of the market's starting to figure out that Powell's going to be hawkish, and they might not get their rate cut in September. And I think that's the big problem. DHI. D.R. Horton pulled back $4 today, or nearly 3%. Pulte Home, same thing. I'm not saying that Toll Brothers dragged on them, but I think it's just the rates, interest rates. These are interest rate sensitive stocks, and all this thing did is pull back to its 10 today. So that's not the end of the world. Just something that I'm watching, for an indication on rates, because if the market doesn't get the rate cuts, I think the selling is going to accelerate. All right. Let's go to, Target reported this morning. Man, they are a mess. Ooh, the CEO stepping down. Uh, you know, the history is littered with failed retailers over the years. Kmart and Woolworth and Sears Roebuck, and there's just been a lot of them that have failed over the many years. As a matter of fact, I just went to Silicon Valley, and there's one Sears left in Silicon Valley there on Wolf Road near Apple Computers. But Kmart, Woolworth, I mean, there's a lot of them. Montgomery Wards. There's just been a lot of them over the years. And Target, I'm not saying they're going out of business, but they better get it together. They hired a new CEO. They're getting their lunch eaten by Walmart, which reports tomorrow, and Costco, and there's just the big box retailers just kicking their butts, for lack of a better term. Walmart, and then of course Amazon. People like to shop on Amazon, have it delivered to their doorstep. So yeah, Target just really struggling here. Great American company, but I hate to see it. It's just it's not happening for them. Anyway, I'm going to move on. TJX. Now, this is, a little more niche market, smaller market cap. Um, I think it's smaller market cap than Target. It might not be by now, but a nice report up nearly 5%. That's a good question. That's 154 billion. Oh, yeah. TGX is way bigger than Target. Wow. TJ Maxx. Yeah. Okay. That's a little surprising to me. Retail apparel shoes. But anyway, you can see the accelerating sales growth and earnings growth, and the market likes that. Breaking out of a base today, but closing near the lows. You can never tell what these earnings moves. They've been really wonky here recently. ADI, this is a semiconductor manufacturing company, and they reported market liked it. Looks like trying to break out here. Nice move of more than 6% on their earnings report. FUTU, this is a Chinese financial brokerage platform. And this thing's been super strong. It's been on our relative strength list a lot recently. You could see why. Today on earnings, pulled back to the 21. That was probably at the open, right? Yeah. Boom. The old okey doke, right? Oh, it's going to crater, it's going to crash. And then buyers come in. This thing just rips higher. Man, what a move. From that 21, which is 161 to a close at 178. Thank you very much. Like I said, the earnings responses have been really wonky recently, especially since we've hit August, this little choppy area here. This is Lowe's. They reported kind of like Home Depot, big move higher, then close lower, and not lower, but to the low end of the daily range, 6% of the daily range. Who else? Oh, Estee Lauder. Oof. Another company with a lot of trouble. Pull back to the 50. Just, when you see these big, large red numbers, it's hard for me to get interested in that stuff. And then Baidu reported, I think they had a muted response. Yeah, down 2.5%. I just think things going nowhere. Anyway, all right, I'm going to get to the same stocks, the same playbook as yesterday. There's defensive names, getting some love here, just a rotation out of the winners into just more defensive plays. Procter and Gamble, Colgate, Palmolive, same thing. Toothpaste, toothbrushes, cleaning products, and Clorox. Just getting a little love. You can see these are in downtrend, so they're just rotating money around into defensive names. Church and Dwight, the utilities. Once again, Wisconsin Energy, Duke. Just little moves here, just a little rotation. These things aren't going to set the world on fire. Edison, this is out of Los Angeles. They were down today a little bit. But anyway, I think you get the picture, the rotation, and I'm not, really interested in that. Something that I am interested in are these drug stocks. Novartis with a big move out of this base here. I like this, up 2.5% this week. Earnings line heading due north, and Novartis, good company. They have that strong selling multiple sclerosis drug, Kesimpta. They're doing well. INSM. This is one that just got FDA approval. Very nice. Just been super strong since last week. This week, while the Nasdaq's been floundering, this one's been rallying. So, we like that. Stocks going down, I don't like. I do not like. Stocks going up, I like. Keep it simple. Halo, another one that I like. Why? Well, because it's going higher. This one you got to look at the weekly here. This is a very choppy daily chart. On the weekly, there you can see this base here, base on base. It's actually been since back here, August 30th. It's been a year of consolidation. Now it's starting to break out of this base. So Halo, and this is one with legitimate sales, legitimate earnings. They're going to earn $6 this year. So this is a fairly valued stock here. I should say inexpensive, especially for a drug stock. RIGL sold off one day, sold off, pulled back one day, and then rallied today to new highs. This thing's super strong, 41.86 new high for a RIGL. A couple of diagnostic names, DGX. Quest Diagnostic, yeah, very nice. And then MDT, this is one that reported earnings and had this crazy move on pretty tame, mild earnings. It came down, undercut the 50. Yesterday it was down to 87.50. Today it was 94. And this is what I mean with these crazy, wild moves on, pretty pedestrian earnings here. No reason for this. Um, yeah, well, there is a reason because in the stock market, there's only buyers and sellers. There's supply and demand, and there's, resistance and support. And it looks like this thing's getting support at the 50. So Medtronics, yeah, just crazy move for a pretty pedestrian stock and growth numbers. All right, I'm going to get out of the drugs. I got to go to an area that I dislike again. Not the oil and gas names, the insurance. Just acknowledging strength here. Allstate making new highs. HIG making new highs. Hartford. Yeah, I can't get excited about these. I don't know why. Probably because I look at my insurance bill and say, God, these guys are screwing me. But the stock's nice. Aflac with a nice move today, up on volume. And anyway, that's enough for the insurance group. Some food and beverage names that are doing well. Celsius, this one's on our relative strength list here, just very nice move. You got to look at the weekly here because this one goes through all of the Weinstein, stages of, stock, right? Stage one, and then stage two, the advance, and you got stage three where it doesn't, it stalls, and you got stage four where it declines and it forms this little stage one base, and now it's out of the stage one base and into stage two advance phase, and hopefully it does something like it did here and rallied for, a couple of years. That would be nice. So Celsius looks pretty good. Another one is cocoa, the cocoa water, the coconut oil and milk and energy drinks and all that. Nice move today of like 6%. Thank you very much. And of course, Coca-Cola is a defensive name, so it fits into the drink and defense. A Warren Buffett stock. Yeah, it's up a little bit while the indexes were kind of floundering around. Just a defensive name. All right, I'm going to get to some stocks that just have caught my attention, some stocks that are leaders, some stocks that I think may have bottomed today. So just bear with me a little bit here. This is GDOT. It's a financial green dot financial credit card payment stock. Made this big move. So it was on our power earnings gap here. And then it did the, this little flag type pattern. We've seen these have been working. So I'm looking for this type of stuff to work, to continue to work. BSAT, another one that flagging, looking to see if this works so far. No dice, but you got to give these things some time here. The market's changed a little bit, obviously. ATEC, Alpha Tech, this is made a nice power earnings gap. How long ago? August 1st, right? 30% move, and it's just grinding higher. And with these leading stocks, I should change it to the five. If you will indulge me for a hot second. So there it is. It's just surfing the five, right? Which is what you want to see. It's not doing these wild pullbacks like some of our leaders. It's just steadily grinding higher. I know it's only a $15 stock, but like I said, I like stocks that trade higher. I don't like stocks that trade lower. I'm trying to keep it simple. Oh, this is another one. NEGG. I posted this a lot. It's on our relative strength list, and it has this same pattern here. It keeps running over and over where it ramps up and then forms this little flag here. It consolidates for a couple of days, and here it did the same thing, and here it did the same thing. Ramps up to a new high, then consolidates. Boom. Last week made this high. What did it do? It consolidates here, and then today popped 24%. I think it's going to take out that 133 from last week soon. I mean, I'm not saying tomorrow, but yeah, 133. So far it's just an inside week, but the way this thing's trading, it was up 9% this week. That's not a bad week while the Nasdaq's been floundering. Yeah, 133. That would be my target for this one to take that out. Maybe 135, 140. Who knows? But this is not, they don't even have options for this one. This is not for the faint of heart. That one really moves. Speaking of which, BMNR talked about that handle that it was making and pull back to the 21 today. I wouldn't say it popped. It was up 4.5%. Made that low though of 47.25, which kind of retested the low from yesterday, right? Which was 47.77. So made kind of a lower low, but pulled back to the 21. So this one I'm watching closely. Might even take a swing at that one in the coming days. It moves a lot though. You have to know what you sign up for when you get these things. This is not for the faint of heart. This thing's going to swing a lot on the day-to-day basis. Wayfair, this one, another one, just surfing the five, a strong stock on our relative strength list. And just, this is what you want to see. Like nobody talks about Wayfair. Shh, it just keeps going higher. You keep the goodies to yourself. And Wayfair looks pretty good. And then another one that I'm watching is WULF. Why? Well, because it made this big move last week on the Google news, right? I mean, this is definitely a high tide flag here, up 60% in a day, and then on Friday followed through 3% on Monday. Looked like it was going to really ramp, and then did give you the old okey doke, and that's day three, right? Day three, you got to be careful, and then day four, which rested, and now today looked like it, gathered some steam here. Yeah, the high was at 1071 this week. So something to watch. But man, that was up 78% last week. Big move. So this is one that I am watching. Also, IREN for these crypto names. This data center play up 5.5% today. Looks like it's finding support at that 21. Uh, Definitely consolidating and what, looks like a Darvis box type of move here. You want to see it break out of that box, not break down, break out above 21. Call it 21.75, 22. If it gets up there, then it's go time. Okay, so now we're going to look at some of the leading stocks that we know everybody talks about. All eyes are on Robinhood, and what you don't want to see is what I just pointed out with the prior stock IREN and is you don't want to see it break down below, the box area. And it didn't today. It came back to 99. Still confined to this box, a consolidation pattern. And don't get too discouraged. It ran up to what, 117 and it pulled back to 99 today. So what I look for is that the low. The prior low is 93. 36, makes a higher low at 99. It's been making higher lows for pretty much the entire, since April, since we got liberated. So what you want to see now is this thing trade, above 100. It might retest that 99 area 100. And if it does retest, you want to see it hold, and then maybe it's the chance to take a swing at this thing. It's below the 21 now. It closed 1.7% below the 21. So if it rallies back through there, maybe it's ready to take out the 117 area, which was 117.46 or 117.70. Yeah, from August 12th. So definitely one to watch. A lot of people watching this. It's well off the lows now, 99, and it closed at 105. So that's a pretty strong move. Palantir, same thing, sold off this morning, undercut the 50 and then rallied back above it. Wow, closed at 156. Okay, so the low is 142. So it closed 14 bucks off the lows. And yeah, well, so this is definitely one to watch. I mean, this is like your beacon for your software group, your AI, your Momo, your high valuation growth stocks. Palantir is that stock to watch. GEV, haven't talked about the power plays for a while. I think it made a low today, personally, just based on instincts. This is a very strong stock. Institutions love it. It sold off from 677 to 581 this morning. Let's take a look at the 5-minute chart. Yeah. And just, all the sellers, like I said at the top, there's only buyers and sellers, supply and demand, support and resistance levels. To me, that is like the sellers are getting exhausted and the buyers are saying, hey, this stock's too good. I want a piece of it around $600. It came down to 581, closed above 600. So that's a $25 move, $23 move. Yeah, I mean, that's a big move. From peak to trough today, the daily range closed 88% of the daily range and went up to 607. So more than a $25 move off the bottom. LEU, same thing. This thing's really sold off hard, and today made a low of 162, closed at 170, call it 176. So, this is $14 off the lows. Will it retest that low? Well, maybe. I mean, it's below the 50 now. It's got a lot of work to do, but this thing moves fast. And yeah, I'm not calling the bottom here or the lows. It just looks like that could be a low, and that move off the low was pretty darn strong with some of these names. So maybe, institutions want to own these things and they're getting back in, possibly. There's probably more selling ahead. You always have to respect the selling. Don't be too complacent and respect the selling or try to argue with the market like your stock deserves a higher a price. CLS, another one, Wall Street darling, traded down to 173 today, closed at 183, call it 10 bucks off the low. So maybe this one's hit its low. I hope so. That's a nice move off the lows. 96% of the closing range. So you just gonna have to wait and see. This could retest the low, could come back to the 50, could also rally right back through the 21. Neither would surprise me. My expectation would be that, there's probably more selling in the month of August, and a trip to the 50 would be my expectation. But if it rallies back through, this is where you have to be flexible and open-minded, and then just kind of interpret the stock as it, trades, and only price pays. So it doesn't do any good to say, oh, the stock's worth, what it was back here, 218. Well, it's not 218 anymore, it's 182. So now you have to deal with reality. It did fill this gap here, which is always a positive, right? The gap fill on what day is this? July 28th, 173.71. Yeah, 173.23. Amazing how that happens, huh? Made it by that much. Okay, what other ones do we have here? Oh, yeah, the ones I showed earlier, ALAB. Another one that, institutions like. I don't think this thing's going too much further lower, but you never know. It didn't even get down to the 21 today, which is 159, call it. The low was 161.39, closed at 172. So 13 bucks off the low. Is that the low? I don't know. like I say, you just got to watch day by day. It's got a huge gap to fill here. Maybe it'll come back and retest that low. Maybe it'll come back to the 21. You just got to take it one day at a time. I know that Wall Street and institutions like the ALAB, same with Reddit. Reddit makes money on advertising and then selling data. And so they're based on excuse me, they're valued on their eyeballs, right? Their subscription growth, right? So the more user base that they have, the more they can sell, their data to companies like Google and Meta, and more advertisers will pay up for Reddit, and the more monthly or even daily average users they have, and so that's kind of how they're valued, not just based on straight up numbers of they had 500 a million in sales last quarter. That's not the metrics for Reddit. So we just look at the price action in the stock. Today the low was at 205.37 and the 21 was 204.41. So you can call that a kiss. A kiss, close enough for a kiss, a French kiss. How about that? European kiss where they fake kissing each other on the cheek, not a French kiss where they go all sloppy with the tongue. Anyway, I'm getting TMI here. Reddit, yeah, it looks good to me and well off the lows. That's what you got to look at. The low is 205. Is it going to retest 205? I mean, it's 13 bucks off that low. Um, like again, once again, you just got to wait and see. But I don't know. That's a pretty strong move off the low. Will it retest? What you really want to see is it retest the 21 and then confirm that support and then rip higher. That would be ideal for me. A couple other ones, of course, you got to look at NVIDIA. This is the big kahuna. They report next week. This is undercut the 21 close a tick below the 21. This is one to watch tomorrow, I think. Barometer for how the market feels about the Fed going into Friday's Jackson Hole, which is, Jackson Hole has been pretty devastating for the market. It moves the needle on the tech stocks, especially. Advanced micro devices undercut the 21 today, made a low of 158, which is above the 50 and below the 21. So it's in no man's land now, in between support and resistance. But that's well off the lows. I mean, 158 to 165. That's a nice move for AMD. And I think I'm just going to stop right there. There's a lot of stocks. So you got to look at your favorite stock or what do you own and where is it making the lows? Where is it finding support? Where is the resistance now? And that's what I do on days where they're selling. Where are they finding support? Thank you for watching at mcstockcharts.com. We never give up. Except for honor the great Steve Jobs. I have one more thing. And that is Walmart reports tomorrow morning. And I think Walmart is a better barometer for the consumer than, say, a Target or a Home Depot. Maybe not as much as an Amazon or a Costco, but Walmart is a big kahuna here. This is 818 billion market cap. It's closing in on a trillion market cap. So this will be sector moving, I believe, for those retail stocks because they sell everything at Walmart, right? I mean, they sell clothes, they sell food. I mean, they sell anything, soup to nuts, everything at Walmart. So I'm really looking forward to this tomorrow. I think the consumer is slowing a little bit, and um, yeah, Walmart definitely something to watch for tomorrow morning. That's it for me. Thank you for watching. Hang in there. Don't get too, if your stocks are selling off, there's just you got to play by the rules. You got to have guardrails so you don't take big losses. Don't never take more than a 5% loss. Never let a profit turn into a loss, which I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth because I did that this week. I was out golfing and stop loss. Yeah, I just noticed that I thought I had a certain price basis and it was different, so I've been making some mistakes, but that's the way it goes. I'm not too worried about it. But yeah, you don't want to let a profit turn into a loss. You don't want to have more than a 5% loss because it's just too hard to make that up. So the bigger the loss, the more gains you need just to get back to even. So let the market do its thing. If it wants to sell off more, fine. If it wants to rally more, fine. If it wants to get back above the 21, I'm all in. If it wants to play down to the 50, I'm all out. So, just going to play it that way, keep it simple, and never give up.